and also just me and you is nice as opposed to it's nice to have more people, but sometimes it's also nice to have the intimacy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been doing a lot of thinking lately about synchronicities and whether or not they are within our control. Like, can we manufacture them through our meditations? And if so, how?
Well, by the way, right off the top, I feel like we want to be in rhythm of the universe. Like we would like to have the signs constantly popping up for us. So I think that sometimes we're going out there looking for those signs as opposed to the signs are always there. Whether or not we see it is up to us.
That's interesting. You have to have eyes to see it. Yes, and a heart to understand it.
Well, you wrote your article about it. I would love to hear from you directly as opposed to reading it because it's a different perspective when you're reading it versus when I'm speaking to you.
Yeah, I did. And Brains Magazine, Brainz, published it. Um, it's really interesting to think about how it's a conversation between us and a conscious universe. Now, there's a lot of people who would like to know, like, oh, come on, what do you mean by a conscious universe? Um, because it sounds like a little woo woo. It sounds a little fruity. You know what I mean? Like, wait a minute, that's like, it's not a person, you know. Um, and we hold ourselves in such high regard as people, and consciousness has historically been that which separates us from all other life forms, including animals and plants. And now that's getting disproven. um, it isn't just the idea of quantum physics through like Dr. Federico Fagin in Italy, who just published his book in 2024 called Irresistible. No, Irreducible. It's irresistible to me,
Yeah, yeah, apparently.
but but it's irreducible. In other words, he talks about this idea of qualia, which is the essence of what makes a thing have an impact on us. I mean, think about quality. So, qualia is kind of the quality of things around us and the quality of the energetics in the human being as the electromagnetic energy of the electricity of the brain, when combined with the magnetism of the heart, creates an electromagnetic energy that goes out into the quantum field. And my article is suggesting it ricochets back to us. And that's why we recognize it as meaningful or familiar, because it was our idea in the first place.
So that goes back to your original question. So then how do we manufacture that? Like because ultimately don't we want to experience that all the time? We would like to.
Yeah.
So how do we
Yeah.
do that?
Well, even in medical science now, they're finding healing sometimes happens just from paying attention to the individual. That there's healing in our focusing on something, because and children, I've been an educator for 49 years. Children will, especially in the middle and high school years, will not do work for a teacher they do not like. If they do not resonate emotionally with you and they're struggling academically, they're going to hide. They don't want to be identified. They do not certainly don't want to be identified as someone who has difficulty learning. And my field was special education. So the idea that you pay attention to something in and of itself demands focus, and it needs qualia. It needs the quality of that would resonate with what you're asking for. So if you're asking for peace in the world,
Mhm.
you can't be, I'm going to have peace in here if I have to kill every one of you. You- right?
Well, my teacher Ramdas he used to say, if you want peace, you better damn well be peaceful.
Love it. Yeah. Yeah. He was something else. I mean, that's something you and I share, Yanni, is a deep fondness and respect for Ram Dass. As you know, I studied with him just that one weekend or week for a solid week of silence. And it
By
was
the way, Dr. Jen,
profound.
I just got to correct you. So my name is Yoni. What so
Yoni.
yeah, like yo and then ni. I know people get confused
No,
because there's
good.
also a
Don't
singer
want to
named
do that.
Yanni.
Oh, there is a singer.
Yes. There's
Oh
been
my
more. There's been more than one actually that had the name Yanni, which is
Yoni.
also a nice name.
Okay, tell me the difference. Is there a
So
difference in
actually
meaning?
my name Yoni comes from a word Yonatan. It was
Okay.
a Hebrew word that they shortened to Yoni.
Okay.
So people know the Sanskrit word Yoni, but they often don't know the Hebrew word Yoni. So Yonatan, it's a Hebrew name. It means to give. It's like a giver.
A giver.
Yeah.
Okay. And Janet means God's grace. And I got to tell you, I'm spending a lifetime growing into that
Yeah, it's a
one.
beautiful name. Are you kidding me? God's grace? Are you kidding me? Of
Right?
course.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I kind of, when I was in more of a self deprecating time in my life, I was basically shaking my head and going, "Oh my God, my mother didn't know what she was asking for," because I'm a little bit like a bull in a china shop. Um, but I've learned there are multiple definitions of the word grace. And it goes right back to what we're talking about. When you are in grace, you are in harmony, you are in sync or in resonance. So it goes right back to the idea, how do we create more resonance in our life? Okay, so let's just say Federico Fagin is accurate, that the universe itself is conscious, right?
Okay.
Okay. And here we are, we put our hands on our hearts, we meditate. And now that theology has corrected the definition of prayer to be to act as if it's already here. That which you are looking for is already here. Okay. So if you're looking for an increase in your monthly salary, let's just use that as an example. Everybody likes to talk about money as energy. So we're saying, all right, I would like $5,000 a month income, steady, just coming in on top of what I already make. This is an additional five. Okay. And somebody says to
Sounds
you,
good to me.
doesn't it? Okay. And I'm using a small number because I want whoever might be listening to realize you can amp that according to what you according to what you want. But let's just start out modest. And you put your hands on your heart and you imagine your imagination, Einstein said, is more powerful than thinking. It isn't about thinking, it's about imagination. Okay, so if you imagine, oh, all of a sudden your bank account is up by 5 grand. Ha! What happens immediately? You smile, you get excited about it, your brain starts going, I can pay down my debt, I'll pay off part of my car. Oh my God, by in 3 months I'll have enough money to buy an open-ended airline ticket, which I think right now runs around $3,500, by the way. Okay, I looked it up the other day because I'm planning on spending this, right?
Yes. Hey, if you
Right.
have it, I had listened to something today that was saying that it's like I like how you said to be modest because sometimes when you ask for too much, and even if you receive a lot too quickly, you often spend it abruptly, as opposed to being like, if I have a little bit more, okay, so I do a little bit more. It's like incrementally, let me gradually go into this shift, but allowing yourself to see it before it actually happens is so important.
Yeah. So Kitty's asking who we are. Why don't you introduce yourself and then I'll
Oh,
introduce
well,
myself.
Crazy Kitty's been here before. I'll say hello. Hey, how are you? First of all, Crazy Kitty been here before. So yes, so I'm Yoni. I am coaching men to find calm through chaos. Sometimes in this world, it's a little chaotic for people, and they want to learn how to traverse this journey a little smoother.
Okay.
And
So hi,
Dr. Janet,
Kitty.
yeah, introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi, Kitty. I'm Dr. Janet Curcio Wilson, and I am an eco psychologist, which means I integrate nature therapy and art therapy combined using Jungian psychology, which is Carl Jung's psychoanalytic method to understand psyche. So the whole idea is to return psyche to nature, more akin to way the indigenous have been for millennia. So my work is all about helping to create interconnectedness between people, earth, plants, And their creativity, their
And you
innate
make art
creativity.
yourself, correct?
Oh yeah, I'm a visionary artist and I
Crazy Kitty does some artwork.
Oh, no kidding. Oh,
Yeah, I
that's what
believe
kind of
so,
artwork?
right? Yeah. And she's a young kid, so she's enjoying these conversations. It's so interesting because we have younger people on here that are appreciating these kinds of conversations. They must be in a really unique place and a really a
That's
learning place
wonderful.
in their life.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's really exciting
Like
for
I think of my
sure.
own children, my kids. Like, and I can't imagine my kids listening to this right now, but I would so appreciate if they were. But some who knows, they might be.
Well, and at some point, this is a legacy piece, right? This stays. They tell me anything that goes onto the internet stays forever. So
Yes,
here it
yes.
is. Yeah. So getting back to the original question, um, how do we create more synchronicities and get validated more? So anything that is attended to with focus and it has to be the two elements your brain, your thinking. So that's the focus, right? That's the prefrontal cortex here, where the forehead is, and the newest part of the brain, and your heart, which has over 40,000 brain cells around the heart. Okay. And what that's why you put the palms of your hands where your nervous system ends over your heart when you're doing this prayerful and expectation mode of $5,000 more per month in your bank account, right? That's what we set as our hope. But you're living it as if it's already happened. Doesn't mean you go out and spend $5,000. What it means is that your energy, the electromagnetic field of your brain and your heart, align and resonate with the energy of whatever it is that's going to let the universe figure out the how. We're not interested in how that money gets here. That's a very cognitive skill. This is anything you pay attention to resonates. Once it resonates, you create a frequency that is going to match your frequency of joy in having already received it. Now you put the responsibility on the quantum field to manifest it.
Yeah, and I feel like based on what you're saying, so it's like once you're in a flow of whether it's being aware of the synchronicities happening to you or you're actually in a sense making them happen, but the more you lean into it, it seems like the more you're going to receive more of that.
Yes,
And I would
like
say then
begets like.
unfortunately the reverse would be true too.
Well, that's key. Yeah, say more about that. That is key.
I mean, we don't want like to talk about it so much, but what we're programmed to do in this world, we've been programmed from a very young age, is to have doomsday.
Oh, yeah, it's not
Doomsday.
gonna happen. This is ridiculous. I'm a scientist. I don't believe in any of this stuff. Yeah,
Right, and then that skepticism comes in, that worry feeling comes in of like, well, I'm not seeing the signs fast enough. I'm not, or I only saw one sign today. You
yeah,
know, it's
yeah,
like only 11:11, but I didn't. I missed. How come I didn't get any other signs?
yeah, right? And the manifestation might come in a different way. You're not gonna always get what you want. You'll get what you need. And
Ah,
that's key.
oh, that's a hard one for people to hear that. They
Mm,
want because we want. What do you mean? I want.
that's ego. I want, I want, I want. This is a different thing that we're talking about here. This is beyond ego. This is more like what Bruce Lipton calls
Well,
the
then, but Dr.
superhuman.
Janet, but then how does someone get behind? Like, meaning, I feel like we all have an ego on some level. So how do we get behind that ego, and so that way we don't let that lead?
Practice and recognition, keen observation of how you are when you are meeting your meditation and the energy again, how you are when you are out in the world. Because if you're functioning one way, 1 hour day in meditation, and then in the world, you're frenetic energy, you're going nuts, multitasking and being anxious all the time and running like a chicken with your head cut off, right? You're going to get more of that. The mistakes are going to fly, the
So okay,
difficulty's
so
going to
this is
come.
what I this is where I feel like it could be a problem for people, right? They, like you said, you could have a meditation practice, right? You could be meditating an hour, 20 minutes a day, whatever it is. Ram Dass always says like 20 minutes to start is a good. And I'm like, nowadays, I don't know if you would say 20 minutes, like 5 minutes, like start small. But either way, like you could have a practice, but then like you said, you could still be chaotic outside of that practice. So it's really, it sounds like more of like a moment to moment thing. But what would you say? So how do people get to that moment to moment? Because it's one moment you're in it, one moment you could be out of it, and you want to contain like have a consistency of being in that energy space that you're referring to, of being in this like motion of like, all right, positivity and flow and that kind of life.
You can train your brain, and that's one area that I do is brain retraining. There are tools. You can use a Muse headset, for example, that gives you immediate feedback because it changes the vibration of your brain waves into the sound of a rainforest.
Oh, is that by the way, is that what you mentioned when we were talking with Daryl? You mentioned, did you mention that? Was that the one or was
Yeah.
it a different one? Yeah. And
Oh,
that you
well,
said,
no,
and you
no,
said,
no. It was a different one. I was talking about binaural beats and
right,
making,
right, right. I
yeah,
remember now.
little bit of difference. This one's a tool I use in practice with individuals who tell me I can't meditate. I have tried. I can't calm the wild monkey in my mind down. It's jumping all over the place. Here's the beauty. You put a Muse headset, which is a band that goes across your forehead and tucks behind your ears. It's a device, and you charge it on a USB ahead of time so it has a full charge, and then you download an app on your phone. um, what happens is you go into meditation and you can choose the sounds. I tend to love the sound of the rainforest, so I use the rainforest app uh, section on the app. And as the Muse headset is reading galvanic skin response, right? The sweat going across your brow if that happens. It's reading electrodes behind your ear, which are very, very sensitive, sending off impulse or pulses, right? According to your pulse, right? And your heartbeat. And that is getting translated into alpha, beta, theta, et cetera, brain waves, hertz, in hertz value. Instead of giving you an intellectual analysis, it then translates that into the sound of a rainforest. And somehow they've toggled the volume. So if you're really frenetic, you're hearing like a tsunami coming
Well,
at
you
you.
feel like, do you feel like an instant, like instant feeling of being calm once that music is playing or once those sounds are playing? It's like this feeling of calmness that kicks in.
It's the other way around. You're being told by someone like myself to follow your breath. When your breath
Mm.
comes in, you say in. When your breath goes to yourself, you say out, right? And as you do your breathing, it is your job to calm the tsunami you're hearing down. Because we all start in beta, and beta brain is noisy. Ba, 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 ba. It's a very fast rhythmic, right? So,
Can I ask you? I'm asking you another question because I want
yeah,
to cut for a second
yeah.
because I asked this question to my mom, who's a yoga teacher, and obviously I meditate myself and I do conscious breathing. I started with a few minutes every day and it increased, and now I do a nice amount per day, but started with small. But the point of it's funny, like this meditation thing that we're talking about, breathing that we're talking about, it seems to be now like the most everyone's talking about it, right? But is there a way for people, let's say they don't want to do that. Like I'm not doing that. I'm not doing meditation. I'm not doing this breathing thing. I know I'm already breathing, waste of time. Is there another way for people to tap into the flow, that energy space that you referred to earlier, the synchronicities, the signs without like is there awareness without the breath? Can we have that? Is it even possible?
It's a really interesting question. Can
That's
you
why I
do
asked
it
you. That's why I
without
asked you
your,
this question. I was
yeah,
curious.
that's a stumper for me. It's like, can you do it without the breath? You're going to be breathing no matter what, because without that, you're dead, right? Okay. So you're going to be breathing anyway. It again depends upon your focus on your breathing.
Because there
Okay.
was a woman, there's a woman that I don't remember her name. There was a video on Leader. So it was an interview. Leader was interviewing this woman, and they asked her about meditation, and she's a person who speaks to angels. And she said, "No, I don't meditate, but I do spend a lot of time in nature." Right?
Hmm.
So She didn't say she doesn't focus on her breath. She just says, "I don't meditate."
Mm.
So it could be maybe she was kind of saying, "Well, listen, conscious breathing is conscious breathing. Meditation maybe is separate. Are they separate? Are they the same?"
Mindfulness meditation is a specific type of meditation that focuses on the breath. Walking meditation, which is something Ram Dass was fond of, is movement in the body to where your attention is not so much on your breath, it's on your physicality, your whole body, and being conscious of where you put your feet, right? When you're
Mm.
walking. So you could apply that to anything. We did conscious eating where you slow down and you're just having this bite in this moment and you just keep doing that. The beauty of using, for example, the Muse headset for those who are listening is you can get immediate feedback on what it feels like when you enter a calm mind. And as soon as you begin to calm down on the Muse, you'll hear birds. So the goal is get as many birds as you can because it's going to be graphed and you're going to see the birds in real time on a graph when you're done. So it helps an individual who says, forget the breathing, I can't do the breathing. Well, this is exactly the tool for that individual.
And and it sounds really beautiful in a sense that if you're hearing different sounds in it, and then you go out into the world and you're out there, maybe you'll be more in tune to the nature literally around you, the birds that are flying past you and making. I was listening before. I was outside in the afternoon, and there were so many birds, and I just listened for a few. Just listen to them. It's music.
Somebody said to me one time, when the sun rises and as it goes around the globe, right, it wakes the music of the world because the birds begin singing to the songs when the sun rises, right? And then as the other side of the globe gets dark, right? And they quiet down and they go to sleep. So there's
Nature
something
is
with
the
light.
greatest teacher.
Yeah.
Nature shows us that there's periods of sleep, there's periods of it's dark outside, you rest. It's light outside, we can move.
Yeah.
And the humans, we tried to do something funny. We tried to infiltrate the darkness of like, oh, it's I don't need to go to sleep. I get less sleep. Or people stay up way in the night to do other things. And yes, we get caught in that not looking towards nature in certain situations.
It's really interesting because the the invention of the electric light bulb and the increase in anxiety are exactly paralleled.
Really?
Yeah, because we messed with the what do they call that? The biorhythms. We messed with
Wow.
them and we ended up doing what you said. We said, "Oh, I can stay up now cuz I can see." Right? Sorry, I have to
No,
plug
that's
the
okay. Take
phone.
your time.
Yeah. So we ended up challenging nature, right? And saying, oh, don't worry about it. I have electric lights, so I don't have to worry about going to sleep. The indigenous go to sleep when the sun sets and wake when the sun rises. And that's biorhythms. And because we messed with that with us, many people are all out of sync now.
That's so it's so fascinating, and I've heard people have these conversations of like the debates about whether or not it was better back before technology and before all these things. Was it better or worse? And that's debatable or whatever it is. But one thing's for sure, like you just mentioned, is that something changed for us when with technology, with lights, with all the advancements, even with all the beautiful things that connect us around the world. There's something happening with people's anxiety levels. They're through the roof
Yeah.
to the point where we're even scared. Like it's like we think it's normal. I had a conversation with my sister about this. She was like, "Yeah, but like having anxiety is normal." There is a level of anxiety that helps you push yourself in a certain sense, but there's level of anxiety that's really happening now is this fear-based anxiety of like literally the doomsday approach of life, like end of days,
Mm.
unable like the signs we're talking about, synchronicities. some people are all about the synchronicities. Some people they hear the word sign and synchronicity and they run away. There's extreme.
That's interesting. I think it gets misunderstood, spirituality, because that's what the synchronicities and psychology, what it falls under. Excuse me. And it gets misunderstood as somehow not in alignment with specific religions. And there's a big difference between religion and spirituality. Um, Somebody once said to me, Jesus wasn't a Christian. Which is it almost short circuits your brain. It's like, well, right. That got created as a result of the teachings, which I don't want to get into a whole big thing on that, but the idea being that synchronicities and following synchronicities couldn't be more in line with the best teachings of all nine of the world's religions.
I couldn't agree with you more. I I, like Jesus, was into a Jewish family I was born into, and then left the Jewish fold. So he was trying to teach people in that way, like you're mentioning. It's like, there's no religion has its place, and it could bring you to the right place, but it's ultimately to bring all of us to the same place. To look at the
Right.
world in a much bigger way than just little bit like the narrow vision that we have.
Well, that comment, the kingdom of heaven is within.
Right.
There's a lot of them, but that one, the idea that at some point developmentally, if you're on a spiritual path, you get to the point where you understand there's a little shining piece of God in every human being, in every plant, in every animal, in the everything that's out there. And it's
Yes.
that specific little bit of heavenly radiance that when connected one to the next to the next to the next amplifies. And that's the spirituality we're talking about. It's the amplification of the God within.
And you just said a great thing. You said that one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. You're connecting. So it's the same way with energy, that when you stay in that positive flow, as you were mentioning earlier, and you connect one positive moment to the next positive moment, gratitude, love, connection, noticing, nature, and you stay in that place, you're bringing one moment to the next. And you're creating a beautiful world.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all co-create it. There are
Yes.
some people who believe it starts with us, that this is an illusion and that we are co-creating it. So the disasters and the political difficulties that we are experiencing in the world today could be a what would you call it, coalescing, coming together, a solidification of much of the darkness that's held within the hearts of the people who are alive right now, that we're not doing a really good job of raising up that sense of spirituality, that sense of light within us. If we could
It's
only be
really
more like the
difficult.
plants.
We had a conversation on the phone before getting on here. The what was the word you used? Spiritual activism.
Yeah.
That is so freaking difficult because people ask me. I go on live all the time, and I get those. It's like kind of what people are doing really. When you talk a little bit spiritual, or talk about the universe, or talk about science, or God, or any of these keywords, immediately people want to know, what are you going to do about a protest? What would you do in this scenario? Who are you voting for? And they go right into back into the division, back into
Mhm.
the negativity, back into that negative energy space, and then trying to fight you on your positivity, fight you on alignment,
Mm,
or the way in
mm.
which you can see it differently.
It's interesting. I think that can be short circuited by asking the right question. And one of the right questions to ask, and I'm using the Buddhist term right, the right way or the right path, which means it aligns with all of the tenets of Buddhism or Christianity. I mean, they're the same, or Judaism, right? The Kabbalistic, what do they call that? Oh my God, just drew a blank. The spheres. I can't think of it.
That's
Anyway,
okay.
um, the question is, what would it look like if we were all connected and joined? What would your potentiality and my potentiality become if we were all about lifting each other up? If we were all about, what's the golden rule? Treat each other as you want to be treated, right? What if we did that? What if everyone in the
I bet you
world,
if we all did that, when many more people would start seeing these positive synchronicities and these flow signs. And because what happens is we are signs for people. So
okay,
we're nature. So we become the sign. So when we start to lean into that place, then we're walking around, we could be a sign, and then you could be a sign, and then you could be a sign, and everything starts to become that place.
yeah,
People, because people ask me, I haven't watched the news in a very long time, nor do I go on websites for news, but I do find out the news because people will tell you for the last couple of years now. It's been a couple of years. And I find that I've learned something. I've learned a really valuable lesson, which is the stuff I need to know, I will find out. The stuff I don't need to know, I won't know. But do know this, that I can't control everything out there. I can only control what's in here. So if I can make myself into the best version of myself, then my reality in my world starts to become that version. And
mm-hmm.
then if I can work through that, like you were saying, if you keep on going on that path, then there's more and more to come. It starts to open up.
I think that's true because alchemy, although it was an ancient art, seems to have validity even today. So, this idea of like for like, you want to be treated better, you treat others better. That's like for like. You want to be positive and have positive things happen in your life, you exude positivity and you do kind things and you align yourself with that which feeds the light in all beings around you, everything, and positivity will come. So yeah, I think there's real benefit in that. And I do think that once you begin to, it's kind of like you buy a blue car, right? All of a sudden you start noticing all of the blue cars on the road.
Yes,
And you
yes.
you think, wow, everybody's got a blue car, right? Or you get pregnant and suddenly everybody, you're noticing all the pregnant women. I think it happens the same way with synchronicity. You experience a few synchronicities, now you're sensitized to synchronicity, and all of a sudden, things you might have not noticed before that were synchronous are suddenly noticed. So some of
Yes,
it is
yes.
it's already there. It's a matter of developing the heart, mind, and eyes to see it.
Yeah, that training is very, the training to be patient enough to say, okay, I'm willing to start slowing down my life to be able to notice what's right in front of my face. Because usually the biggest signs are the ones we don't even see.
Right.
Like we wake up in the morning and it could be our partner's right next to us, or our child is right downstairs, or our dog is sitting there, and we're looking for like the big thing to come out of the sky. The alien from space is going to come down and save me.
Right.
That's the place. I feel like
Oh,
that's the place people are looking for, like the big signs, and they're just pushing away those little signs.
right. Yeah.
Uh, I'll just respond to people that are writing here. Crazy Katie, we're not ignoring anybody. I just when I'm listening to somebody else, I have to listen. I got to listen, so I can't do two things at one time. In spite of what people think, they can do a million things at the same time. And I do read the chat, so there you go. So
Yeah,
respond to that.
yeah. And I would invite you, Crazy Kitty, if you want to be recognized, to join the energy of the conversation. Think about what's being said and contribute to the conversation that's being put out here. And that will immediately entice Yoni or I to read the chat, and then it's something we can respond to
Yeah.
because it's not just you listening, right?
Yeah, it's okay. It's everyone has their own agendas, but you're 100% right. It's like
You got it.
people. That's the great thing. It's what's unique about the lives in general is that it gives people the opportunity to jump in at any moment
At any
and to be
moment.
like, and to be
Yeah.
part of the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But
Well, you
also that,
mentioned
and
it was
that is
a
also sometimes people coming on here is
good,
a complete, that's a sign in itself. If the fact that we're all here in this particular moment, whoever
good point.
joins, whoever comes in for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, however long, it's this moment.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful. I love that. That's great.
Yes. So I mean, I'm grateful for these lives. I'm grateful. I love the fact that we can connect to people all around the world and have these types of conversations, real conversations about life. Because a lot of times these conversations are happening, in our homes or with our colleagues, but now we're able to present it in a way, literally, to speak to people wherever they may be.
It's lovely. It really is amazing. And I have another group that I attend to, uh, which my Tuesday mornings are sacred to me now because there's a small group. I think there's one person from the United States and some people from England and Israel, and it blows my mind that we can have, a meeting and we're all over the world.
I really appreciate nowadays the ability for us to do that. I know it's not the same as, like, we're not in person together, so I get that, and I know people want that level with everybody, but the fact that we can see each other in this kind of way and be able to have this discussion wherever you are in the world, you can't take it for granted. We have to be very thankful. Like, even speaking to our loved ones, we could speak to people across the world, but our loved ones who live across the world, it's also so nice that we could just connect with them, and FaceTime the grandchildren. You see people doing that nowadays, like the grandparents and the grandchildren that otherwise would never see each other.
I know. Yeah, it is. There are
I know
so many
people
things
get
that are
upset about
amazing.
that advancement of technology, and it's like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And AI is making lives a lot easier. Opinions on AI and
Uh,
spirituality, right? It's like,
well,
because
the whole AI thing's very interesting. It's like anything else. Um, Unfortunately, when computerization first came in and I was teaching, um, schools bought into Macintosh, into Apples and computerization before any research was done on how that should be managed. The research followed. And when the research did come in, we learned that the brain of a child up until the age of roughly 12 is so malleable that even the glow from the light on the screen interrupted the optic nerve, which goes directly into the brain and can create an addiction. So it was too late by then. They already had computers for children all the way down into, first grade. Now, I find it really interesting that Silicon Valley's main administrators and leaders, Jobs himself and Gates, the children of those people went to Waldorf schools where computers are not allowed until they turn, I want to say 10, 11, um, because they knew that the device they were selling wasn't good for the brain of the child.
wow, that
Yeah,
is fascinating.
they knew. So, there's a book out there called Glow Kids that's worth reading for anyone who's listening if they want to know more details around that. Um, it just because a baby can at 18 months maneuver an iPad doesn't mean we should put an iPad in front of a baby. And the kindergartens in this country now are struggling immensely with kids not being able to listen as they used to be able to attend and listen. We were talking about our ability to attend. It's very difficult.
I find it so interesting that this is first of all, great conversation. I love this conversation because, first of all, I worked with kids for so many years, and I would talk to parents, and I worked with a lot of foster children, so it was a lot of foster parents,
Mm.
but about navigating the worlds of technology. And it feels to me at this point that's a little bit of a lost cause, in the sense that the adults are addicted to it. So the adults that are telling the children to stop using it, are they themselves addicted? From the first thing they do in the morning is check their phone to the last thing they go is check their phone. So if that's the first and last thing we're doing, then what are we doing throughout the day? Are we checking in between meetings every single second in the bathrooms, wherever we're going, we're checking the phones. So then the kids look at us and are like, well, you know, you're telling me not to do it. The second I get the opportunity, I'm going to go do it. Now, I only found that for myself, I've had to come to the acknowledgement that yes, I'm for sure addicted to my phone. Definitely. Having said that, the way I approach my children is all right, they're going to be addicted to it. Okay. I can establish that. What am I consuming? What am I creating? If I create content that's like what we're doing now, and I'm doing these types of things in my life, and this is how I'm living my life, then I have better odds of my children getting involved in some of this stuff, being
Right.
involved in these conversations,
Right.
loving
Yeah.
conversations about the universe and signs and following that kind of energy. Because what happens is, what I find for myself is that my pages on YouTube, my pages on TikTok, my pages on Instagram, not really on Instagram because I'm not really there, but here on TikTok are all positive consciousness, awareness, all that kind of stuff. Alan Watts, Carl Jung, Ram Dass, or people that are in that space talking about it. The people I follow are just in that space. And the more you're around, even in a social media platform, the more you bring in those kinds of people into your space, that's what your world becomes in that social media ground.
I think that's true. Again, it goes back to the resonance of it. So I'm hoping that, all right, oh, let me say I'm working actively on being more and more conscious of what I send out into the world in my thinking, which nobody can hear but me, right? Um, in my communication with other people, watching my tone, um because the subtext, that's interesting about communication. There's what's being said, which is the communication, but then there's the meta communication, which includes what's not being said and how the timbre in which it is delivered, which communicates, because I can say, um I really wish you would pay attention when I speak to you about spirituality. Or I could say, "Oh, I really wish you'd listen when I speak to you about spirituality." And the tone, woo,
Matters.
oh my God. One of them has barbs,
It-
right? It stings.
it's
Where,
there's an
yeah,
approach. There's an approach for sure.
yeah. So I think that's what's meant, but fundamentally by resonance. Here's the thing about resonance. That is the same thing, according to Rupert Sheldrake. I love that guy. That makes fish school and birds flock. You know those birds that flock in these massive circles, and they don't bump into each other.
Yes, it's amazing. I used to sit in Miami Beach on the beach, and there was a big building, and I'd watch the birds, hundreds of birds flying in circles. None of them hitting each other exactly. They know exactly where they're going.
Mm,
Nature, nature works perfectly,
yeah, yeah. It's a symphony. It really is a symphony. It's remarkable.
and
Yeah, so
even us humans with the beeping the horns, all the beeping, beep beep. It's part of the music.
that's interesting. Yeah. Well, getting back to your idea of our relationship with computers, there is a whole movement now called the transhumanistic movement, where they're hoping to implant, for example, a computer chip into every infant by 2030 in the vaccinations. There's a controversial
That is
subject.
wild.
Yep.
Putting chips in human, and what are the chips supposed to do to the human?
Well, they're not saying this, but the fear is it'd be a GPS, to track you wherever you go, right? They'd know where you are and send data back.
But you know
Um,
what, Dr. Janet? But listen, the way I see it is, look at the technology. They're tracking us anyway. If you're really
I
worried,
know.
if you're really worried about that, just think about logically. These phones, how is it? They're working
Yeah.
through satellites. They have access. Any phone that if we carrying a phone with us, there's
Yeah.
access to you.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely
I'm
right.
a, I have an Alexa show in my bedroom. An Alexa show. It has a camera, has a screen. It's talking to me. Sometimes it says things out of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I know
Every,
some
ev
people
the
are
old school security cameras that people had in the buildings.
yeah.
If you're able to watch a screen, even a TV, and that has satellite, especially satellite connection to those TVs, there is a
Okay.
way. Dave Matthews Band, my favorite musician, as you probably know already,
Yeah.
he has a song called Satellite. The song Satellite's about peeping Tom for the mother station. That's a line he says. Peeping, what is he talking about? He was talking about the initial creations of this stuff was to spy. It started off for good reasons, but these chips is just another example. But the ultimate thing is that's why you have to go in because everyone knows everything already. Everyone, there's no secrets
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, but they're talking about that's just the tip of the iceberg putting chips in vaccinations for babies.
That's the
They're
tip. What's
talking
the
about
next?
well, they're talking about all kinds of things that would go inside the human being to amplify our ability to think, like conversation, robotics, part robot, part person.
Robocop's real.
Yes. Oh, yes. Bionic man type stuff. Yes, absolutely. So
Wow.
the transhumanistic movement is busily pulling together ways to improve upon the human being. And, especially in warfare, you've
Do
seen
you?
those
There was
sci-fi
a just
movies.
quick question for you. I'm watching a show now about clones, human clones. Is that a thing? Is that something that can realistically happen?
Well, here's the problem with human clones. According to Greg Braden, who's just released his book, Pure Human, he talks about the transhumanistic movement in that book. He said that clones, Dolly, the first sheep that was ever cloned, didn't make it past 15 years old. And they have not perfected cloning. They've cloned plenty of other animals after that, and they die of rare diseases. We can't seem to figure out what's wrong, what is missing in the cloning process that seems to curb longevity of life, how long they live.
And they can't determine it.
Not yet. They will, I'm sure, with time.
It's really it's fascinating because when you watch if you're watching movies or TV shows, especially sci-fi type movies and TV shows, it usually comes from somewhere. It's not out of nowhere that these things all of a sudden years later they come to fruition, like the show The Jetsons. Like,
Okay, so this goes back to our original conversation. If artists, right, and they've always said, you want to see the future, look at what the artists are creating. Now it's in animation and film. Okay, that's part of the arts. If our artists can imagine dystopian futures, ugly, horrible, possible collapses, right? Why can't we, on purpose, create utopian futures? The positive flip
oh,
side
we
of that.
can, but it doesn't sell.
Well, and maybe that's a matter of critical mass. In other words, we need a majority of people beginning to do the imagination in positive ways to help make manifest the best of who we are.
Love that. I totally agree with you. It's those movies, they make movies where they try to show you that dynamic, right? But like the happy ending, but there's always the drama of it. And ultimately, life has a drama. There is a drama that we're playing out in a certain sense. People, it's like I'm working to help people remain calm. But what you start to notice is that a lot of people don't know what to do with the stillness. They don't know what to do with the calm. They're so
Mm,
used to the fight, the response of like, I have to argue, I have to get upset, I have to be fighting for something. I have to be fighting to collect more and more because what's otherwise, what am I doing? What's my purpose?
right, right. That's very interesting. And you're right, we're really uncomfortable when we're in a room or in a conversation and the conversation drops. Now, what do I say? There's almost a panic to that. And I think getting comfortable, friendly even with the spaces between your thoughts, the time when you're a little bit more quiet, when you're first waking up in the morning, right? Or you're falling asleep at night. Those are two good places to begin practicing that because most of us are still during that time. And unless there's a trauma going on in your life, you don't have the wild monkey of your mind on a hamster wheel going around. Then I understand it. It's like, okay, that's a very difficult thing to lay still because if you've been avoiding a difficulty all day, somebody got mad at you and you've been kind of putting it off, and I'm not dealing with that because I have too much life to have to deal with right now. It's going to return in that moment of stillness.
Yeah, unresolved, like unresolved conflicts, unresolved traumas, and well, inability to be present because the second you get to that presence, you don't want to be present because well, it's not that you don't want to be. I would say people want to be, but like you said, they just can't because their mind starts to spin.
Yeah, yeah. So, what are some of the ways that you keep men calm?
So for me, well, first of all, as you mentioned, meditation for me is big. I personally started with a 3-minute meditation 4 years ago. I say 4 years, but around there. 4 years ago, I had no choice. My mind was spinning so fast. I saw my friend meditating on the ground, and he wouldn't respond to me. I was trying to call his name. I was calling him, hello, hello, not responding to me. So I said, I'm going to meditate with him. And he was listening to some random guy on his Alexa, and I'm following this guy's meditation. Who was the guy? Of course, you know who it is. It was Ram Dass. I asked him who it was. He said, "Oh, I told you about this guy, Ram Dass." Anyway, I started getting into a Ram Dass. I went down that rabbit hole, way down the rabbit hole, all the way. And he's my teacher, 100% my teacher. But then I called my mom, who's a yoga teacher, and I asked her, and she said, start with 3 minutes in the morning, like you mentioned. The morning is the best time. So when I listen to people's instructions, I listen to a T. So if you tell me to do it in the morning, I think, okay, the first thing. So it's funny, I don't go to the bathroom. I literally wake up and go into meditation. And that's how I started 3 minutes every morning. And then I went to 3 minutes in the morning and 3 minutes at night. So for myself, what I've learned is that if you start in, like you said, if you start the day and end the day in that kind of stillness, imagine what your day in the middle looks like. Then what starts to happen is if you could increase them over time, which I have, then during your daytime, you're able to stop and consciously breathe incrementally throughout the day. So that was one tool that I have done. The other one is I say mantras. I say the famous mantra now that only started a few weeks ago. I was doing my own for a while, like I told you, but the Buddha, the famous Buddhist one now, I say Om Mani Padme Hum.
Yes.
So it's because I finally understood the meaning behind it, and what Ram Dass's meaning was is that it's the formless, which is like a jewel sitting on the top of your heart.
Oh,
The
I
lotus,
like
like this
that.
jewel sitting on top of a lotus flower on the top of your heart.
Ah,
So I go into
okay. So,
that place of, okay, it's that light that we talk about, this light, that soul, that's the formless. There is that's that place. So I lean into that, and what I've done is if you like you were mentioning about going step to step, step by step. So what I noticed is the more I do the mantras, the more I do the conscious breathing, the more I find myself in the spaces between doing that. So I forget oftentimes, like a
mm,
regular human, but then when I forget and I notice I'm forgetting, I come right back to it.
yeah, okay. Yep. That's beautiful.
And then, there are practices I've done. Like I write every day. And like creative arts, like you're a creator, and you notice that I look towards the creators. What do creators do every day? They create. They don't always create the entire project in one day. They don't always do all of the things, but they're always creating, whether it's going on a live, whether it's making a post, whether it's doing a writing, like you wrote that article, the beautiful article, and you've written other
Thank
things.
you.
You know, it's constant creation because we are co-creating our reality. So I learned that that's really what it is. And then when we're not in that space of creation, sometimes we have to be in a place of stillness. That's
Mm.
the other place. So the stillness creates this creativity because it creates a space to allow yourself to be creative. So I'm so grateful for you and for all the coaches out there that are they're doing so many beautiful things because you see their different creative ways.
It's very interesting. Fritz of Capra, an environmentalist, an author, he suggested in his book, The Web of Life, that there are four elements to life. One of them is sustainability, that in life, in nature, for example, everything is sustainable. It's regenerative. That's the second one. It regenerates itself again and again and again, when healthy, right? When it's heading toward life. And then the other two are it's innately intelligent and it's innately creative. And I remember stopping when I read that and thinking, how is nature innately creative? And then I thought about Susan Simard's work. She wrote the book, The Mother Tree. Um, South American environmentalist, a botanist, and she grew up down there. I think she's the one who coined the phrase the wood wide web for the communication system of the mushrooms underneath all
Wow.
the trees, connecting the trees everywhere. And all of a sudden it hit me, that's pretty creative.
Yes.
That's
It,
pretty
it's
creative.
it's truly like my friend. I used to sit so for a few years. I left. I was a therapist for many years. I left therapy 18 months ago. So when I left therapy, there was a nice lull before the coaching. Okay, I was spending time in nature. I would sit by water almost every single day, and you learn so you just it's when you sit in nature. You learn a lot. I sat in cold weather, sat in warm weather, went to beaches, parks, and it's just some days you're like you see it, you just see it differently. The animals and the just the water is tremendously powerful. The fact that I'm looking at the water and and sometimes it's coming down strong. The ocean, the waves are hitting so hard. And you're like, at any moment, the water could just come up and swallow me whole, take me away right at this moment. It's happened. It's happened. We've had tsunamis. We've had these things. Not crazy, and
Yeah,
even not tsunamis. Water. People are walking on the rocks. I was once walking on those rocks during my journeys. Cops came over to me, stopped me, and said, "Hey, hey, please don't do that. We people die on those rocks. The water takes.
mhm.
It's calm
Comes
one
up.
second. The next moment, it hits."
Bam. Yeah, yeah.
So
Unpredictable.
you do like nature's the biggest teacher, and but allowing nature to teach us is allowing it to sit back. It You just watch a group of birds like you mentioned earlier circling around and just having fun together.
Yeah,
And you see, if you throw food and all the birds come together, and the birds will sometimes like peck at each other, like the big one will always peck at the little one, get away from me, I want to get this food. But they're not running away. They'll still get the little birds still try to get food and will get it, eventually get their food. And everyone seems to somehow manage to get along.
right, right. And
No
that's
one's pulling out any weapons on each other. No one's yelling at each other. Sometimes the big bird's like, ah.
well, I'm reading this book now, The Light Eaters. It's really interesting. And I learned that there's communication in the air between the leaves of the trees in the wind. So, for example, if a caterpillar comes by and starts eating the leaves on a tree, that tree will send through its respiration, through its breathing, a message to the trees around them. Caterpillars are around. And if
Wow.
that wasn't brilliant enough, they send a message to the exact wasps that eat those caterpillars to come. And the wasps come and start eating the caterpillars to save the tree.
So that brings up the question that and this is the question that people ask me about food that I eat. So people will say, "Oh, you shouldn't eat meat or you shouldn't eat chicken because they're alive." But what you're literally saying right now is a tree is alive. Plants are living
Absolutely.
and they're
Absolutely.
communicating.
Yes. Yes. And that's intelligent. what I just said is incredibly intelligent. We can't do that. We don't know how to summon somebody who can't stand the guy who's yelling at you, you
Wait,
know?
well, but there are people in history that have been able to use energy people that are somehow able to, through energy, communicate things. So there is some level to that. A meditation, people that with these crazy meditation practices have learned with like these powers, cities, powers to be able to summon certain things.
That's interesting because what you're getting into now is the idea that there's something to, um, what do they call it? PSI. Um, oh God, parapsychological phenomenon that there are people who develop particular areas of their brain that most of us don't have a command over. There's actually a school that I was noticing online the other day, blindfolding children and then putting a card with a shape in front of them. And those kids were getting 98% identification with complete blindfolds, being able to identify the shape of the card.
So what's the logic behind it? How is it working?
They believe that there's energy to the shape that's on the paper that the child is tuning into and being able to recognize the shape.
Right. So the kid is not seeing it, the kid is energetically feeling it. So we
Yes.
can feel technically, we don't need our senses. Well, we need that one place to feel.
Well,
And through
we
that,
need them, but it's an amplification of the senses. In other words, I mean, we use less than 2% of our brain. Einstein used just under 2%, right?
wow.
So if that's true, the rest of it is not a freaking hat rack. There's got to be some use for the rest of your brain. And if parapsychological phenomenon is one part of it, a lot of people like go, "Oh, that's ridiculous. That's so
Well,
woo."
did you watch Stranger Things?
Yes, there's a show on TV,
Stranger
yes.
Things is basically that concept that the doctor worked on these children to help them create these energetic abilities.
Interesting.
That's why when I watch, I see it that way when I watch a lot of the sci-fi type shows now, that they're really teaching us, they're lessons in teaching us about energy, that there's an element, it's not always like the bad energy, but to tap into a good energy that you can actually do things like magic. If you ever watch America's Got Talent, I used to watch that show, and my friend was like, oh, what my friend was one of these guys, a friend, who was a coworker, an old coworker, who was a magician. And I asked him, I showed him a video and I said, how is that possible? He's like, everything is possible. I said, this isn't possible. This is not possible. Unless it is possible. It's obviously possible, right? So he was trying to explain it, but he had no answer because he wouldn't want to say the real answer, which is
No,
that
no, because yeah.
it's scary to answer the real answer. That there's energy that what do they call those people that can read people's minds?
Clairvoyant? No.
Yes, one of the words they use is that, but it's there's an actual
Mental
word.
telepathy or
Yes,
telepathic?
mentalists.
Mentalists.
So there
Okay.
was mentalists on that show that got the entire place to pick the same thing, right? To pick the
Okay.
same answer, things of
Okay.
that nature.
Right.
That logic wouldn't give us a real answer for, other than there's another level,
Okay.
like tapping into that level of energy or spirit.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. So to summarize, I think we're at the top of the hour.
Yes.
Um, uh, we're talking about remaining open to the idea that we don't know everything. So there is the potentiality that there's more for the human brain and our hearts, right? All part of us, our way of being in the world, that is developing. And as it develops, it's important to remain open to the idea that we're not sure where it's going to go. And that's okay. That can be part of the inspiration for engaging in things and remaining curious.
Well, it's living in the mystery, but knowing that the mystery is going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful, but that's the mystery, to lean into this, what you would say, the unknown.
Yeah.
because we
Yeah, I
don't
think
know
that's really
everything.
important. And then when you find something that is positive, to lean into that. That's where amplification of synchronicities, which is where we started, comes from. Your ability to attend to it amplifies it. There's something about our attention, right? You got a sick plant, tend to it, pay attention to it, give it your energy, do your best. More than likely, your plant's going to survive.
I got my plant sitting right here. I'm looking at him like this guy's looking pretty good.
He's looking pretty good, so you must be doing pretty darn good with your attention.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for my plants. I'm grateful for this
We're
hour.
lucky. We're
Um,
blessed.
we should definitely do this again. I'm grateful to be here with you. And I know that YouTube works funny. YouTube, you need 50 subscribers, but if you have the 50, then we could do the you could do the live either way. Then you could send me the live and do it that way
Ah,
too.
okay. Well, I'm brand new to this. So
Okay.
this is my first YouTube, you know, communicate with somebody else. I don't know. If you want to go on J Curcio 7, you'll see some of the movies I made. I'm kind of an amateur, very amateur
We're all learning
movie
this. We're all
maker.
learning this. It's
Yeah.
always learning.
So, but there are some pretty cool ones there. I think fractal intuition is the one I would suggest you look at. That's pretty cool.
I appreciate you and everything that I love what you talk about in general. And you have the words. I was just telling I met someone today on the street actually. I was outside and I was having a conversation with somebody and I was saying I was going on YouTube later with you. And I said, it's nice to go on with somebody. You really have the verbiage, the words that I don't have the background that you have. So I really appreciate you because you have certain words I just don't have in my vocabulary right now, but I do
Yeah.
appreciate you. So
Yeah, well,
thank you.
thank you. It's a nice compliment. Our relationship is a nice compliment.
I
Yeah,
do think so as well. I
yeah,
appreciate you.
yeah. All
Well, let's
righty.
do this again. We'll definitely do this
Yeah,
again. And we'll take it from here.
sounds great. You take good care tonight.
You too.
And I know we lost Kitty. I apologize.
I just it's so funny. You never know who's gonna show up on here. So and usually and it's different when you're like if I go live by myself, it's very different. Obviously, I'm engaging with the audience more in that way. I feel like
I
when you're
think she
on
was
with
hoping, yeah,
right,
that
but when you're
that
on live, like you said, it's more like it has to flow. The same way we had a three-way conversation with Daryl, there needs
yeah,
to be like a flow.
right, right,
So
exactly.
just
All
grateful.
right. All righty. Well, take good care and
You
thank
too.
you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.